everyone. This is Polish Peter, and welcome to the call. We're going to be starting shortly here. I am just going to let a few people come on. I see people start coming on, so I'm going to give it another minute or so. We're going to get started. I'm really excited about this particular call because of the fact that I will be talking about something that I've been going and researching and working on for the last 18 months. And the journey that I've been on throughout this whole thing really has helped me to find a lot of great things about different people and what they've been able to do and accomplish and why they do such amazing things as an immigrants here in this country. You know, it's one of the most amazing things to see people come from a lot of different places, different countries, and come to the United States and really experience and blow it out. And, you know, some of them, as you can see here, end up on the Fortune 500 list. I'm talking about 43% of entrepreneurs who are on the Fortune 500 list are either first or second generation immigrants. And that's what we're going to be talking about on this particular webinar here. So I'm just going to give it another couple minutes and we're going to get started. I see people are coming in, and it was really interesting to see the kinds of registrations that we're beginning for this webinar. I've had people from Poland and Germany and Mexico and all kinds of different nationalities of people that are living here in the United States. So I'm really excited to see what I can provide for you guys here because of this particular topic. Is going to be very exciting. So, you know what? I am not going to waste any more time. I'm going to get started. As you can see down here in the corner, lower right corner, that's me on the camera. Hi. And I am going to be getting started. So on this particular webinar class, I am going to be talking to you guys about the 3 unspoken traits that all of the immigrant entrepreneurs on the Fortune 500 list use, and how you can actually unleash those same traits because they're already inside of you, and you can do that today. And that's what we're going to be talking on this particular list. And that's why I want you guys to really look and make sure that what I'm sharing here with you guys don't use it for evil. You know, there is Dr. Evil picture. I like that picture. The movie is pretty awesome, but I don't want you guys using it for the wrong reason. And that's why I want to share this stuff with you, but I want you guys to use it for the good, right? And I promise for you on this particular webinar that if you guys are listen and really sit on this webinar and pay attention, that you will be able to discover something about yourself. You know, I talked about the 3 traits that these entrepreneurs have. And you'll be surprised because it has nothing to do with most of the stuff that people are talking about, like marketing or being savvy or wise or some crazy thing, you know, or they are, you know, driven and things like that. Although there's part of that, right? But those traits are pretty unspoken. Not a lot of people are talking about those. So I'm thinking that when you are literally listening to this webinar, you're going to get yourself an aha moment. And we're going to probably even find out what's really stopping you from your success. Listen, if there is an area of your life that you're not successful in, whether it's your business or personal life or with your kids or with your family or husband, wife, or whoever it might be, there's something that's stopping you, right? Because otherwise, you would be doing something. You'll be very successful in life. Because here's the thing. There has been a great quote that has been said before that everything that you need to do in life is already inside of you. Your brain has all of the different qualities and things and resources that it needs in order to be successful. The only problem is that some of these are uncovered. They're sitting in the background. How do we uncover them, right? And what's stopping you is actually keeping you away from achieving that success, right? So in order for me to do that for you guys, to help you create that aha moment and allow you to see what's stopping you, I'm going to do the research, right? I'm going to reveal the research that I've done with multimillionaires, that 200 of them were actually on Fortune 500 list. We're talking about people like, you know, Steve Jobs and Tesla, Elon Musk, and all these powerful immigrants, you know, the founders of Google. Those are the people who have really uncovered those traits and they've been using in their business since they started. So we're going to help you uncover those traits right here on that webinar. And then at the end of it, I'm actually going to give you a cool little gift. And that gift will be something I'm going to share with you in just a minute. Now, my promise to you was that Now, I'm hoping that you can promise me one thing, that you'll be open-minded, that you'll be coachable, and be present on this webinar. What I mean by that, open-minded and being coachable is just for this next hour, set everything aside that's happening in your life. Set everything aside that, your phones, your chats, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your anything that's out there, your browsers. Just focus on this particular webinar and be open-minded. Consider that what I'm telling you here might be true. You don't have to use it. Just consider it, right? Be open-minded to be open to what I am sharing with you might be true and might actually help you, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And be opinion-free. What I mean by that is, a lot of times when we're looking at live and we're interacting with people, we have opinions, right? We say, well, because this, or he's saying because this, or it's easy for him to say this, right? These are all opinions. I want you to set those aside for a minute. Just really listen, to be in the moment on here on this webinar. If you can do that for me, I think you're going to get a lot out of this webinar, and so will I. So, like I said, when you start until the end, I'm going to give you my Simple Shift Business Manifesto that I've written a little while ago. And it talks about the number one reason why your business is not making the money that you want, and how that simple shift will create literally double, triple, even quadruple your business over the next 12 months or so. So it's a really good manifesto that really has helped a lot of my clients in their own business, and it can help you as well. So I want to give that to you for free at the end of this webinar. So, like I said, pay attention, turn off all the electronics, chats, go into a different room where you have some quiet. Just listen. Give yourself this gift to be on this webinar for the next hour and really pay attention. By the way, I want to have to make a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a neuroscientist, not any kind of a specialist. I'm not a hypnotist. I'm not a, brain expert by medical field, although I do study a lot of neuroscience and brain behavior and how people interact and how we humans really work in today's world. And that's why I'm good at, and that's why I'm great at coaching. So why would you want to listen to me, Polish Peter, right? Well, I'm first generation immigrant. I came here from Poland when I was 14 years old without any English. I just had a suitcase in my hand, and my mom basically brought me here, which I'll share a little bit about that in just a minute. And, you'll hear a little bit of my story that actually applies to helping you discover your own, what I will call blind spots in a minute. And currently I own a successful business. It's in the business development arena and a coaching company. I've been owned it for about 10 years. I've worked in about 16 different industries. I scaled to multi-million-dollar clients to, their return on investments into multi-million dollars. And I love studying human behavior, because I think that's what makes it count. If you ever heard of a guy named Tony Robbins, he is one of my mentors. He just doesn't know it yet. But I've studied, all his materials. I've studied him and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that Tony says is that in order for you to succeed, it's 80% mental and 20% mechanics. So if you think about it, 80% of what you do or don't do in life, and especially in your business, it's related to the mental game, to the mindset. So that's why I study so much human behavior, because when I sit down with the students, when I talk to my students, and we can shift, reframe that limiting belief that they might have or whatever, all of a sudden they start making money in their business, starting to turn it on. So, I've been referred by some of my students as Polish Tony, because if you ever see me talk in front of a classroom or in a mastermind, I really get into this and I really help, because it comes from passion, So, like I said to you, I've been doing this for over 18 months, and I'm trying to figure out what makes people tick. Why do immigrants are so successful? So one of the things that I've done is started my own podcast called Immigrant Masters Unite Podcast, where I've interviewed dozens of successful immigrants. You can see some of their pictures here on the screen. We have people from Germany and China and Vietnam and Ireland and Russia and Great Britain and Australia, in all kinds of different countries. And I've really started diving in and listening, and Polish people, obviously. diving into really seeing what makes them so successful. What are the common traits? And that's why I got on here and to discuss those and share those with you. Now, I've also that podcast has been featured on many different websites. You can see here on the screen. I've been featured in the Fast Company magazine a few years back as on the list of the top 100 most influential people on the internet. I was actually number 82. If you could see right there in the lower right corner that I'm pointing with my finger, that's actually my picture in there in the magazine. It was very cool to see that on the cover of the magazine with Lance Armstrong on the cover of it. But it's good to have the accolades, but I just want you guys to notice that I've done a lot of this stuff. I know what I'm talking about. I've been well connected on LinkedIn. I'm the top 10% most connected profile. So I have a lot of people that I'm connected with that I can help, and I connect. I always connect. I go to Mastermind. You can see in the top left picture here, I speaking at a high level Mastermind when I'm sharing, with the people what I really know, something specifically into generating traffic and building out, your business. I've been speaker at some of the biggest conferences in the country. This one right here, what you see here, it's been at a PodFest in Florida. I was one of the speakers then. And, some of these people you might recognize here on this list that you see here. I've been speaking on stages. I've been interacting with a lot of high-level people. This particular gentleman here on the left, for instance, his name is Tim. He came from Vietnam, started literally from nothing in this country. And he literally escaped on a little fishing boat from Vietnam because they were communism and they were going after and putting him in the army. And people, I'll kid you not, he shared actually in one of the episodes that men would cut off their trigger finger, the one that you pull the trigger on the gun, they will cut them off in order not to be drafted. So it's a pretty crazy stories that you hear about those people. Now he's living in the United States in Texas. He's a multimillionaire. He built it out using real estate. So it's a lot of powerful people that are out here. And then here's the thing. What it allows me to do, and what I'm going to be sharing this on this webinar with you, has allowed me to live a really pretty good life. You see some of the pictures here, and I am New Orleans over here, and here I'm at Elvis's house. That was a really cool trip. There's in Colorado, when I climbed a Manitou incline. I don't know if any of you guys have been on there, but it's a really steep climb. And granted, I have a really good-looking smile over here, but by the time I was at the top of the mountain, I was literally like exhausted and didn't want to talk to anybody, right? There's a great lesson that I learned from that, by the way. Snowboarding on a plane, commercial airplane here in front of Lisa Marie. This is in San Antonio. So I've been traveling around, and it allows me to do that. And most importantly, it allows me to be with my family, be with my kids. As you can see here, there's some pictures of with my kids and my girlfriend, and and on the Joe Louis Arena Ice here in Detroit. Ever since I came here in the United States, I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Detroit Red Wings, and this was my opportunity to actually be on the ice and put my stamp on it. So, and the other thing is, listen, you can take vacations, but here's the one thing that I wanted you guys to recognize. This picture right here, this is one of my kids, my youngest. I'm at a field trip with him. I'm the only one dad in that particular field trip. Everybody else was moms. There was no dads in there because guess where the dads are? They're at work. And here's another picture where I'm sitting at a cafeteria during his lunchtime because the parents could come in. I was one of the few parents who actually showed up there and was able to be with their own kid for lunch. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to share with you guys today to help you uncover this. Here are some of my groups that I'm masterminding in. This is my high-level mastermind that I'm part of. These are other groups that I coach for my own business. And obviously, I'm able to make money and things like that. But that's what I was, just to give you a little idea. Now, one of the things that it all led into is that I created what's called an Immigrant Masters Unite Mastermind, where we here in this particular mastermind, it's only for immigrants, it's only by immigrants, and it allows us to transform our lives, transform our businesses, and then our community, because I strongly believe about giving back to people. So that's how we do. We work on ourselves, then we work on our businesses, and then we work on our communities. And that's what's the beauty behind this mastermind. So I just want to, this is my ultimate culmination, right? That's where I'm at right now. But it wasn't always this great. You know, if I remember sharing my story, I was originally from Poland. And if you look here, the picture on the left, actually, that's not me really, but I was always infatuated with technology and computers. And when the internet came out, I was all infatuated with the internet. But what I want to share with you, you know, when I was in Poland, and some of the Polish listeners here on that, you might relate to this. I was living in Poland during communism. And, you know, back then, we were literally living in like this 12 by 12 room. And that was our living room, our dining room, our kitchenette, our bedroom, our, you know, my playroom, and so forth. And that was all of it. That picture right there you see on the right, that's actually me. It's pretty cute little kid, isn't it? And what I want you to notice here at the bottom right corner here, the little white device, that is actually a dryer, you know, dryer that you put clothes in. So you literally put like towel into it, and that's about it. But so that's how I was living up until about 8 years old. And then when I was about 7, 8 years old, things kind of turned not so good in my household. You know, my dad started drinking heavily, became an alcoholic. And it was an abusive, both on the physical level and the mental level, to a point where my parents were constantly fighting. I remember several scenes, you know, that happened when I was little, where my dad was beating up my mom, and which ultimately resulted in divorce. So my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because it's important to this particular story, to this particular webinar. I'm going to show you how it all ties in. So when I was 8 years old and my parents got divorced, and then I came here when I was 14 years old. My mom actually was here before me, and then she came back, picked us up from Poland, and brought us back here to the United States. I ended up in Michigan. You know, I started building my own life. I went to school, got degrees, got bachelor's degree in architecture, and master's in business, and created my life, got married, and then things started not working so well. I started not making a lot of money. I was, you know, we're barely struggling in the household. And so we ultimately started, you know, my wife at the time was kind of fighting, and she was starting to resent. And guess what? About 7 years later, and actually, oddly enough, my oldest kid at the time was about 7, 8 years old when she filed for divorce, and we got divorced. So if you remember me talking about earlier, my parents got divorced when I was 8. And now, strangely enough, I'm getting divorced when my kid is about 8 years old. So I'm like, what is going on here? Something is happening where I'm basically repeating my parents' past in my own future. And it kind of like hit me like ton of bricks. And I'm like, something has to change, because this pattern is most likely going to continue on and on and on. So I went on a massive discovery and a coaching, and I started like immersing myself in all kinds of stuff into neuroscience and how your brain works and personal development, Tony Robbins. I got coaches, and I was getting coached left and right to really discover what was stopping, what was holding me. And that's what I want to share with you guys, because a lot of these immigrant listeners and a lot of these powerful, you know, Fortune 500 people have these kinds of strategies, these kinds of traits that I'm going to share with you today. So listen and watch carefully. Now, before we go any further, I want you guys to imagine yourself for the next 12 months. If you listen to this, what I'm telling you here, and you take it on and you use it for the next 12 months, whether you get a coach or you yourself end up in some kind of a mastermind or something, what would that look like at the end of 12 months? If you really, you found this limiting belief or this trait and you were able to uncover it, what's possible? What could you see yourself in the next 12 months? Are you much more successful? Are you able to really turn in your income and start making more money and things like that? Hold that thought for a minute and let's keep going here. I want you guys to really look at it, that it's possible. So here is that greatness formula, that principle that I shared with you guys, you know, a little bit earlier about what it takes to become successful in life. And we all basically go through this discovery stage, really finding out who we are, what's stopping us, what's holding us back. And then we use it to leverage people, leverage resources, leverage ourselves, our talents, whatever it might be, and turn it into massive action. Because without massive action, none of the other two items, the discovery and leverage, is going to matter, right? So the greatness formula basically is discovery plus leverage plus massive action. But how does that work, right? So those 215 Fortune 500 people and the dozens and dozens of powerful, successful immigrants that I've interviewed myself as well have these three traits that are common among all of them. First trait is what I call absolute truths. The second trait is what I call the mastermind factor. And the third trait is what I call the big why. And I'm going to share with you guys exactly what I mean by that. And I want you guys to apply this stuff to your own life. From this point on, as I'm talking to you on this webinar, as I'm sharing this stuff with you, I want you guys to apply this to yourself, to your own life, and see, is that something that happened for me in life? And how can I reframe that and make it better, right? So the trait number one is the absolute truths, what I call the blind decisions. If you think about it, if you see the picture on the right there where I'm showing the rear side view mirror in the car. When we're driving down the street and we look in the side mirror, there is the spot that, in car terms, we call it the blind spot, right? Where you don't see that car that's in that blind spot. But in the last minute, whether you slow down or reaccelerate, you see that car. And if you were changing lane to that car and you see that car in the last minute, what do? You ultimately quickly change your decision. You change where you're traveling and change your route, and you get back into lane, hopefully, right, without crashing into him. But there's something that happens in that moment. And I believe that every single one of us on earth has those kinds of blind decisions, those blind spots that we have in our lives. They're sitting in the back and we don't see them. Guess why? Because you've been living with it your whole entire life. Listen, I hate to break it to you, but you've been living with yourself your entire life. And that's why it's so difficult for us to see it. So these decisions, these absolute truths, came about when we were children. There's about three of them that happen. First one usually happens between, the ages 4 and 8. Second one between the ages of 9, 14, and third one between the ages of 14 and 20. And what ends up happening is we make these decisions at snap moment just like that. And I'm going to share some of them with you right now in a minute to give you an idea, like an example of how this works. And every single one of these immigrants that I interviewed went through this process. And what happens once you make the decision is just becomes part of you. And it gets locked away in your subconscious. And you, most of the time, you don't even realize it, that decision, that blind decision, is running your life every single day. And by the way, 95% of your day is run by your subconscious. Think about it that way. Only 5% is conscious. So if you really think about it, about 5% of the day, you're really conscious. You're making conscious decision. Because let me give you an example. When you get up in the morning and you put your feet down on the floor, do you consciously say to yourself, I'm going to uncover the blanket and I'm going to turn and I'm going to take my muscles, move them in such a way that it's going to put my feet on the floor, and then I'm going to move my muscles again and nerves to get up? No, it automatically happens. Same thing with brushing your teeth, right? You just go the same exact thing. How many times have you driven to work or to a place that you commonly go to and you're like, how the heck did I get there, right? So that's why I'm saying that 95% of your day is run by your subconscious, and all that stuff is locked away in the background. So that's what we're going to be doing here today and covering those. Because your world is all about perception, and you can't know it until you actually discover it. You have to discover it in order for it to work. So let me show you a little game. If you look at this particular picture, what do you guys see? I want you to look at those two squares in particular. How many different colors do you see here? Now, when I ask this in front of the room at the event, when I show that, I get the responses that that's a darker shade at the top and a lighter shade at the bottom, right? Now, watch this. I'm going to do something right now and see what happens. All I did is I covered that middle part of those two squares with a finger, and look at the colors. It's the same exact color. Now, I promise you, I did not change that slide. In fact, why don't I remove the finger again, and you do it yourself. Literally, take your finger from your right hand and put it right in front of the monitor and cover that middle area. And you'll see that it's the same exact color. So what's the point of this game? The point of this game is to show you that your visual cortex, your eyes, how you view the world can actually be deceiving. You may not actually be seeing what you think you're seeing. And this is one of those examples. So how does this work? Right? Because your mindset, your mind, your subconscious has been living based on different experiences that you've experienced over in life, whether it's how you've been brought up by your parents, how you brought up in school, the environment, the culture. You know, like I was brought up in a communist country, right? And I was living in a 12 by 10 room and all those kinds of different things and different experiences and occurrences and things that happen throughout in your life. And we end up looking at the world through this colored glass. As you can see here with the couple, they literally have looking through the world through a colored glass. Think about it this way. You know, it's almost like you have these purple or red or rosy kind of glasses over your eyes and you're looking at your world through those. How many times have you been in a conversation where there's three people in the same room and one person is talking and both of the other people literally get a completely different story, different interpretation of what the person is saying, right? Because of our experiences. So your world is basically your mindset is being created by your world. So let me show you some examples of what I mean by that. Now, before I go into that, what I want you guys to really know that you have this ABD filter that you create and you already always listen through that filter. It's always there. The way that you listen to the people, the way that you interpret the world, the way that you interact with people, it's always there and it's already there and it's not changing. Let me give you an example. Have you ever had a conversation or you went into having a conversation with your significant other or with your kids or your parents and you already know what they're going to say and you already know how they're going to respond and you already know what's going to happen without you even opening your mouth? That's because you have this way of listening for that person. You have a certain frame of mind that you're listening through, these colored glasses, that is basically, you know, how you're looking at the world. And your entire life is set that way. And it will be unless you change it, unless you shift it, unless you reframe it. Let me give you an example from my own life, how I've been able to uncover through coaching and you know, through my own coach and masterminds. So if you remember, I told you guys that my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. And before that divorce, I remember this one particular thing that happened. And what happened was we were all sleeping in bed in the middle of the night. And my dad wasn't home. I don't know where he was at. But about 2 o'clock in the morning, he came in, opened the door, and completely drunk, wasted, and started yelling like left and right at my mom, woke everybody up. In fact, I think he woke up even the neighbors that were in the next rooms. And he was yelling because he wanted more money to go back into the bar. Now, whether my mom had the money or wanted to give him to him, it's a different story. However, she said she didn't have any money, so they got in an altercation, they got in a fight, they started fighting. To a point where she literally fell down to the floor, and he ended up starting to kicking her. And I was about 8 years old at the time. I jumped on him, and he just threw me off, right? Because I was just a tiny little kid. So I was freaking out. I literally was really terrified that something bad's going to happen, like to my mom. So I went in the little kitchenette that we had off to the side. I grabbed the frying pan that was in there. I went back, and if you remember, like on the couch, there was the arm on the side of the couch. I got up on top of that arm, and I went and I hit him over the head from behind on the head with that frying pan. And he fell down and he passed out. Now, here's what happened. I remember that in that moment, when I was seeing him on the floor, crying, wondering, what am I going to do? I remember like it was yesterday that I said to myself, I will never be like you. Because nobody likes you right now. I don't like you right now. Mom doesn't like you. Nobody loves you. Nobody likes you. And I will make sure that people like me. And I will do whatever I have to do to make sure that my family loves me, people like me, and my kids like me. And I'm going to be a really good dad. Now, that was my absolute truth that I made with myself. It's almost like this agreement that I did, right? So what do you think the results from somebody that says something like this? That I'll never be like you, nobody likes you right now, I have to make sure people like me. Well, people pleaser comes out of that, right? So I used to say yes to everyone, literally trying to make sure that everybody's happy around me. And what happens with that when you're pleasing everybody? Well, most of the time, not everybody's happy. And I don't have enough time. And I let people down because I promise so many things that I can't come up with it, right? And I wouldn't make even hard decisions, simple decisions. Listen, one of the examples and one of the reasons I think my marriage came to a divorce, there was one of those small reasons, is that I remember my ex-wife used to ask me, listen, let's go to a restaurant. Where do you want to go? And I would say, well, wherever you want to go, honey, because I wanted to make sure that she is happy, right? So wherever you want to go, I'll do that. Not a problem. And all she wanted to do is for me to make a decision. And I wouldn't make a decision. Something simple as that, right? So that was one of those truths when I finally uncovered it. It was like it hit me like a ton of bricks. And from that moment, I had a choice to whether or not I want to keep doing this next time I have a decision to make, or I want to do something different. Give you an example from one of my coaching students. Well, he had a similar truth about money. And this was when one day he was sitting in a room and he was watching his grandpa. He came back from somewhere and he was complaining about somebody that he went in business with. This was back in, I think, China. But so he watched his grandpa complain because that person literally took advantage of him and his grandpa lost all kinds of money. And Chen, when he was that kid at the time, he decided, as watching his grandpa, is that when I give money away, when I let go of the money, right, something bad is going to happen. Because my grandpa did that and something bad happened to him. So what do you think the results of that absolute truth are? Well, you hold on to all kinds of money. You're unable to invest. He did not invest in your income. He had a very hard time growing his income to a point where he had money in his account to be able to pay off debt and all kinds of stuff. And he couldn't get rid of it, pay off the debt that he had. Because if he did, guess what? Something bad is going to happen. So we had to reframe that whole thing, right? So that's a great example of a student. Now, are you guys seeing this for yourself? You're seeing this in your own life, some of these situations and maybe experiences. Stay tuned until the end of this video, until this actually web class, and I'm going to show you, give you an ability to uncover one of your absolute truths with me actually on the phone. So I'm going to help you uncover one of them because I know it's very difficult to do it yourself. So let me just get a drink and then we're going to continue. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is another example of an absolute truth that happened with me basically when I was 9 years old and later on when I was 14. But when I was 9 years old, after my parents divorced, I remember that my mom came to me and my sister, and she said that she's going to the United States to make some money. Because guess what? money grows on trees in the United States. It was the land of opportunity back then. This was 80s, right? The way we looked at it, I remember watching Beverly Hills Cop, and you have palm trees and beautiful women and beautiful cars and skyscrapers and beautiful, gorgeous weather, right? That's what the United States looks like, and money literally grows on trees. So that's what everybody back then would come here. For those of you who are on the webinar who are from Poland can probably relate to it if you're from those decades, right? So I thought that she was joking, honestly. I didn't know that she was going to be leaving us. So she said, listen, I got to go to the United States to make some money. I would say, well, I don't want you to go, Mom. And we would be going back and forth like this. I don't want you to go. And she's like, I got to go. And she's like, I don't want you to go. Because the reality was that after my parents got divorced, we got kicked out of that room because we were now more a married couple, right? My parents weren't married. We got kicked out of that. So we're literally almost like on the street, and we didn't have any money. So my mom arranged for me and my sister to live with my aunt and my uncle while she goes to the United States to make some money. But I did not want her to go, to a point where I remember that when I went to the airport, and if you remember back in the 90s, you could literally walk up to the plane where they're actually boarding the plane, right? Everybody can walk and say bye. And to that moment, I remember thinking to myself, well, she's got to be joking. That's not possible. It's not possible, right? 9-year-old kid, right? And yet, next thing I see, my mom is getting on a plane and the plane is flying away. There's the LOT Airlines from the Polish Airlines. So the absolute truth that I made up for myself right then and there, and I said, if my mom doesn't listen to me, if I can't even convince her not to go, how can I convince anybody else? I can't convince anybody else. Can you guys see how I can make the decision? Now, here's the result of that absolute truth. Well, I can't convince people, right? So it's interesting enough that later on in life, I went into a marketing company and business development where I have to basically market to businesses and clients to grow my business, right? So look at that decision started showing up through my life. When I was 14 years old, my mom came back to Poland to pick us up and bring us back to the United States. And I said, no, I don't want to go to the United States. I love my life in Poland. So what happened? We went back and forth for about a week and a half to a point I said, I'm not going. And guess what happened? Next thing I know, I'm on the plane. And what did I decide? Well, there we go. There is proof right there that I can convince anyone, right? Same thing when I was married later on. I tried to convince my wife to stay with me, to not get the divorce, and that didn't happen. So another reinforcing proof that that's the reality. Whereas, in fact, it was just an absolute truth that I made up for myself. And there is the 14-year-old Polish Peter that I just talked to you guys about when she came back to the United States, from the United States to Poland. And, she put us on the plane and we went back. And I decided, I can't make any decisions. I can't convince people. So guess what? How can I trust anybody? If my mom is doing these kinds of things and she's the biggest person in my life, I can't trust people. I don't have anything to say when it comes to making decisions. So what do you think the results of that is, right? I have a hard time trusting people in the relationship later on throughout life. Not a very good decision making, both in relationship and business. Because the decisions that I've been making, I was afraid to make a decision because guess what? It's not going to work. I can't trust the client that he's going to pay me or whatever the case may be, right? I kept getting this proof over and over and over again. So that's why I wanted you to show you those examples between my own life, my own students, because that's what happens with every single person. Every single one of these immigrant entrepreneurs, these powerful people went through all of that. But how do you actually get rid of that absolute truth? How you reframe it? How do you change it? Well, first you got to actually discover it, right? That's what happens a lot with a coach. A lot of my students get that ability by having the conversation with me. And I told you at the beginning, then I'm going to show you how you can get one of those coaching calls with me to help you uncover that truth. So stay up to the end. Once you discover it, you got to understand and acknowledge that it's actually there. You can't ignore it. It's there, right? So you got to acknowledge it. Next thing you got to do is get the impact, like really nitty gritty, kind of authentically, without BS impact that this has on your life. Because when you get that impact that it has on your life, you're really going to see how much it has basically screwed up your life and your, relationships or whatever it might be. And the next thing you got to do is reframe it. The coaches are really good to helping you reframe it. I actually do these exercises with my own students where we reframe this to a point where it's not just, affirmations, but it's actually down to the core being in your, in your brain and your nervous system to reframe it and create a new way of being around it. So instead of being this person who is not confident, who can't make decisions, I am a person who's a remarkable contribution to the world. If you look at my vision, and I'm going to show you a screenshot of my vision in just a little bit, that's when I actually have that on top of my vision for my life. So that's how I discover my own truth. I had an immigrant coach who helped me discover it and frame it, create a new possibility. And guess what happened after that? When I finally got freed from those absolute truths and reframed them, my business and my income grew like crazy. In the next 3 months after that, I made more money in the next 3 months after I discovered it than the entire past year. I was able to build a podcast, build powerful connections. I talk to people. Now I am viewed in a lot of different circles as the connector who can connect people and help them grow businesses and things like that. Been able to create relationships, have a great relationship with my own kids now and with my ex-wife, and my girlfriend. And it's because I was able to uncover those absolute truths and actually be able to move towards the good things, right? So here is the vision that I just told you about. I don't know if you can tell actually on the screen, but if you look at the top here, my overall vision says that I'm being a remarkable, authentic, bold leader and a remarkable contribution to everyone I come in contact with in my life. And that's who I am being in my life. That's why I always put. I literally, if I start going into this, I don't feel like I'm, productive, snap my fingers. Actually, that's my trigger. And I go and get back into this. And that's how powerful this is. So that was the first part of this entire, the absolute truth. So stay tuned because I'm going to show you how you can do that for yourself. Now, the second trait is what I mentioned is the mastermind factor. Now, the mastermind factor is basically actually comes out of, Think and Grow Rich book by Napoleon Hill. It's one of the greatest books of all time. I truly believe that. It's actually one of the first book that I've ever read that put me on an entrepreneurial journey. This book has literally changed my life. So if you haven't read it, pick it up and read it. Now, in the chapter 10 of that book, Napoleon Hill talks about the power of the mastermind. And he says that this mastermind is the driving force behind entrepreneurs, behind people who are growing their businesses 10 times of the growth factor. Because they get, in the room with, they literally have a group of people that are on the same levels they are or even higher level than they are. And these people are masterminding to help them grow. They're helping them. They're supporting them. They're connecting them. They're giving them the ideas. Now, Napoleon, back in the day, he had just imaginary mastermind. But you can have that. You can actually have real people. And that's, I myself, I'm in 2 different masterminds because it helps me grow my business, because it gives me accountability. And I'm going to share a little bit about that in just a minute. It grows my business. And I get to connect with people, powerful people that I would never think that I would be able to connect with. Here is one of the masterminds that I'm part of. These are some of the biggest entrepreneurs in this country, multimillionaires in their own right, powerful people, and I get to be among them. And I get to share my, my business, my struggles, and my, and my successes, and actually help them grow. So that's so powerful. So why do you see this guy over here with Speedo on here? Well, because one of the things that I get out of my masterminds is a powerful thing called accountability. And it's very difficult to get it from your own family or from the circle and your own friends, because most of the time they will not tell you what you need to hear. They'll tell you what you want to hear. Whereas in the masterminds, in the coaching, you actually get the accountability that's important, that's raw, that's authentic, right? So an example of that, if you remember, like I told you, I have my own podcast, but for a long time, for about a year or so, I just had it on the books. I was never able to actually release it, to open it up to the world. So I finally went back to my mastermind. I sat down and I said, listen, guys, I don't know why I'm not doing this, but I need some accountability. So we all started brainstorming and coming up with an idea of what kind of accountability I could have from my own group that will get me to release that podcast. So we set a deadline for when the podcast is going to be released. And we set the accountability. And accountability was that if I don't release the podcast by a certain date, I will have to come to the retreat, the next retreat, in a Speedo and walk around the entire hotel for the next 3 days at the retreat in that Speedo. Now, do you think that I got that podcast done? Heck yeah, I did. I am not walking around a Speedo, especially that kind of a Speedo. That's what they were talking about too. But that's what a lot of times makes the difference, is the mastermind. And every single one of these people who are on the Fortune 500 list, who are the successful immigrants, they all belong to some kind of a mastermind. I know you guys probably heard this before, but I kid you not, this is the secret sauce. You know, immigrants are driven, they're persevere, and all that kind of stuff. But the ones that are really blowing it out of the water are the ones who are on masterminds, who have personal connections. Because of that, I've been blessed to be connecting with so many powerful people. I'm the connector in many different industries. You know, I'm the top 10% on LinkedIn, and I have hundreds of powerful personal connections. You know, and for instance, one of the people I interviewed is a partner with Kevin Harrington, who is from Shark Tank. Could somebody like that be somebody that could help your business if you're in that kind of a space? I would imagine so, right? And my business grows every single year. Because guess what? In a mastermind, rising tide lifts all boats. So what that means is, as everybody goes up, you literally have no choice but to move up with them. Because that tide goes up and you go up with it. Because those people in the mastermind, they see what you don't see. They help you grow and they help you get connected and JV and all kinds of stuff. You get access to top level people and start in joint ventures. You know, imagine if you had somebody in the mastermind who has a list of 500,000 people. And there are many of these guys that I know that have lists of 200,000-300,000, 500,000 to a couple million people on the list. If they could send a couple emails for your product or your service, do you think it would make a huge difference for you? Heck yeah, it would. So those are the first two traits. Now, the third trait is, I believe it's the biggest one out of all of them, is the big why. And every single immigrant who's a master, they all are persistent. They live their passion, right? They never give up. They're driven. And we see all that, right? They see the world as an opportunity. Remember when earlier in that web class, I mentioned that money grows on trees in the United States? Well, listen, I really believe that when I'm walking around in this country, in a way, it's like money grows on trees in this country because there's so many opportunities here. Granted, you can't physically grab a 20 from a tree, but there's so many opportunities that literally you can do whatever you want in this country. Is one of the very few countries in the world that you can do that. And what the immigrants have is that don't have this whole entitlement. They work their butts off. They're passionate. They're driven. But what all these things that I just described, the persistency, the passion, the never giving up, the doing what other people want to do, all these are underneath the secret driving force. And that secret driving force is that big why. Because without that big why, it's not going to happen. Listen, because when you have to wake up at 5 in the morning to go to the gym because you got to lose 50 pounds, otherwise you're going to lose, have a heart attack or something. How many people do you know that don't do that? Because guess what? They don't have the big why. But when you have that big why, that big hairy why that's going to make you move, that touches you, that moves you, that inspires you to the core. Like, I'm kid you not, like you get emotional about it when you think about it. That's what's going to get you under. My big why actually came out of a car ride that I had with one of my kids. And it was, I remember, it was 11 at the time. And what happened, we were driving from school. I picked him up from school and I'm asking him, so how was school? And the response is, nothing, boring. So what happened at school? Nothing. So tell me about it. Tell me something. And I would say, well, you can't be like that. Why are you being like that? You got to, share. You got to talk to people. You got to do this. You got to do that, right? And that's how, because I was trying to be helpful at that time, right? But here's what was behind all that. I was afraid. I was scared. And I was freaking out that I'm going to lose my kid because I heard stories that just wait till he hit teenagers. If you can't reach him now, it's over. So I was afraid that I was going to lose my kid, right? And that moment, I really got present to that. And I discovered that has got to be my big why, because without that big why, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So I had to reframe that. I've actually now reframed that when I'm with that kid, with any of my kids, I'm very playful. I'm curious. I'm being engaged with them, listening to them, and really looking to what's going on, almost like they have a puzzle. And every single time they talk to me, they give me a little piece here and there. And if I am not paying attention, if not being curious or listening, I'm going to miss that piece. And then it's all over, and the puzzle is incomplete, right? But so I created a big why. My big why is to setting an example for my kids in such a way that when they see me throughout the day, they see what I'm building, they see what I'm doing, what I'm doing for other people. It matters, and that's a great example. So I'll give you an example now. Like when I'm picking up my kids from school, I ask them how the day went. Guess what? And this is a really good thing. They won't shut up. They keep going on it over and over and over again, which is great, right? It's awesome because I feel like I got my kids back. And the other thing is I get to hang out with them. I get to play with them. And I get to live that why, and they can see me and they can hold me accountable sometimes because I have that in my vision and they see my vision. It's, hanging on the wall and they can see whether I'm doing it or not. So my question to you is, do you have a big why? Because I do, because it's that important. Because when your kid comes out of school and goes up to you and says, listen, Dad, you know what we did today? I go, what? Teacher asked us who my hero is. This was my youngest. He said that one time about a year ago. And he's a huge fan of Detroit Red Wings. And there was a famous hockey player here from Russia. His name was Pavel Datsyuk. My kid is a huge fan of him. So I asked him, so who is your hero? He goes, and I'm thinking he's going to say Pavel Datsyuk. He goes, you know what, Tata? It's you. I almost fell out of chair. I started crying, sort of, a little bit over there. Right? Because I asked him, well, why do you think that I'm your big hero? And he goes, well, because listen, Tata, you help people, you do things, you always do stuff for us, and you're there and you're helping people. And that's what he's going after. I'm setting the example for them. And that's what my big why. That's what drives me every single day to get up in the morning to do this, to be here with you guys every single, like at 9 o'clock, 8:54, in the evening. So let's put it all together, guys, okay? Because we're getting towards the end of it here. So the greatness formula is comprised of those 3 traits. And I explained those with you. And if you were paying attention on this, and I hope you have, you saw some absolute truths in your life, possibly. You saw that the mastermind factor is really important to your success because, listen, you've been living with yourself your whole life. And if you try to do it all by yourself, a lot of entrepreneurs do, it does not work because you don't know what's on the other side, and the mastermind actually helps you uncover this. They connect you with people that see the other side, and they've been there, done that, right? And the third trait is the big why. That's what keeps you moving. That's what gets you going. That's what creates this reason behind all of it. So those are the greatness factors. So let me ask you a question. Are you struggling in a certain area of your life? Maybe it's business. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's your own self-talk, right? We have that little voice that's in the back of our minds that constantly is talking. It will never shut up. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to be quiet for the next 10 seconds, and you're going to hear it. So did you hear the voice saying, what's he talking about? What voice? I don't have a voice. Well, guess what? That's the voice. Or he was like, what is this guy talking about? Or, oh, he's got an awesome accent, man. I wish I had an accent like that. I don't know. Whatever it may be, right? It's that talk. And a lot of times that self-talk is very defeating, and it actually keeps us from being successful. Are you struggling with that? Maybe you have some negativity. You know, one of my students was dealing with, I'm not enough, right? That he had this in his head constantly going that I'm not enough, or I'm pathetic. So do you feel like you are like that, or you feel like you hit a ceiling in your business, like you're feeling stuck, or you want to grow beyond your current limits, you want to be a part of something bigger and better? So the way to access that is through either coaching or mastermind. However, there's a problem with the current way that these things are working. Coaching only allows you to be like an individual one-on-one coaching, right? You have a coach and you talk to him, and that's what it is. Then, and they don't have the mastermind factor, it's just coach to coach, one-on-one, operation, right? There's no groups, no retreats. You can't really get strategies from a bunch of people. You can't really uncover a lot of the secrets because you only get, input from one person, right? And you don't get the culture, the background. One thing that immigrants have, I think that's very beneficial outside of this country, is the fact that we come from different cultures, and we can take in what we have learned in our own culture and apply it here, and it makes a huge difference. One of the people that I interviewed, he came from Bahamas, and if you've ever been to Bahamas, the people are very extremely nice, right? They're always smiling, always helpful. So he applied that one thing to his own business when it comes to customer support. He would be very friendly always. In fact, when people would buy from him, he would call them personally and thank them and see if there's anything I can do. And people were shocked here that he was actually doing that, because that doesn't happen here, right? So that's a lot of the coaches, when they're not immigrants, they don't get that, who we are, right? Immigrants. On the other side, the masterminds, you get very little coaching, if at all, right? Because most of the masterminds, if you ever been to one, you go in there, you share what's going on in your business, maybe, or you just share some powerful secrets that somebody can take on and use in their own business, right? You don't get a coach, and you don't have any individual growth plans or uncovering blind spots, because it's very business oriented, and that's all that happens. And there's no individual plans or steps. And most of them, I have not seen an immigrant-centered mastermind where it's basically just for immigrants. So I decided to create one myself. And I believe that this is the first ever immigrant mastermind. It's only immigrants, first or second generation are immigrants in here. And I combine those two things. I have individual coaching where I coach you from the mindset, the 80% of this, right? That's where I'm very good at. And I think you can kind of see what I've been talking about. This is just a little glimpse of what I'm capable of doing. You get coach to student interaction with me, right? You get 3 retreats a year. They're only in the U.S., 3 days each. For the first and second day is the mastermind, the coaching. So every single person has about an hour of their time to go and talk about what's important to them, what they want to help with, what they're struggling with, whatever the case may be, right? And the entire mastermind, the other 12, 15, 20 people are there focusing just on that one person throughout the time. And that's what them help them solve it. That's what the mastermind factor really, that's the secret sauce. And then on day 3, we have a training where every single person in the mastermind is required to bring something to the table, something that is very unique that can help other people. Like maybe it's like a how to drive 500,000 people to your website this month using Facebook ads at very cheap. I've been doing Facebook ads for a lot of my own clients. My agency has been doing it, and we've been getting leads in a very competitive markets for about $1, $2 per lead for my clients. And one of my clients just actually passed over 100,000 leads in the past 8 months, I think. So you get that, right? Then you get best strategies, you get secrets revealed by other members, right? You get individual growth plan. We're actually going to sit down with you, and I'm going to figure out the blind spots and your plan, and reframing it, and figure out the steps, and create your vision. Because a lot of people have a vision for a business, but they don't have a vision for everything. How would you like to have a vision for everything in your life? Your home life, your personal life, your relationship, family, everything, your spiritual life. We get monthly group coaching calls. Every single month, we get on a group coaching call to help each other out. And you get access to an online Facebook group where that happens throughout the year and help each other out. And that's why I love the Immigrant Masters Unite Mastermind, because we're not just about them for themselves. We're there to transform ourselves, obviously, but we're transforming our businesses. But more important, we're transforming the communities, because I think that's what immigrants are so passionate about. I have rarely met any of the immigrants that I've interviewed that they haven't done something for their own community here in this country. And that's why I want to bring. So in fact, that every single time I get some kind of a profit in the mastermind, I pass it on, and at least 10% of it goes out to some kind of a charity. And I encourage all of my people in my mastermind to do the same. So here is the solution. You get the one-on-one coaching with me, which is valued at $7,000. You get 2 sessions in first month, and then after that, you get 1 session a month, which is about 60 minutes. And that's when we talk about overcoming your limiting beliefs, your absolute truths, and reframing and creating a vision and a plan for your business. And you get accountability, not only from me, but from the other people in the mastermind. You get group coaching, which is valued about $6,000 a year. And that, it looks like it's once a month. We have a group coaching call on using a technology called Zoom, which is a video call. And you have, a whole bunch of people on Zoom talking and working with their challenges or the wins. We share our wins, we share our challenges, and help each other out. And we connect other people with each other. You get 3 retreats per year. The value on that is about 10 grand based on the average mastermind. I've seen masterminds who are much more expensive, but that's about the average value of them. You get a closed Facebook group where you really can connect with other people and ask for connections, and if they know somebody that they can connect you with, or maybe joint venture with them. And that value is priceless. Listen, like I said earlier, if you had somebody that you can connect with that can hook you up with somebody who's high level or mail out to a list of 100,000 people, that value is immersible, because you can literally make, 10, 15, 20 grand just like that, or maybe even more. So the total value of that is about $23,000 just in real money, plus all the other stuff, right? So my promise is that you're going to get out of this, obviously, when you decide that the mastermind is right for you. And I would strongly encourage you to consider this, because Immigrant Masters Unite Mastermind is one of the very unique masterminds. Every single person that I come in contact with, that I talk to them about, they said it's a very unique thing because they haven't seen it. So first thing we will do is have an interview session, a discovery session. It's about 60 minutes, when we actually make sure that we're a good fit for each other, because I don't let anybody in. Because if you're just the person who's take, you're not a good fit in this particular mastermind, because I want to bring people who are giving back, who are sharing, who are helping other people, right? Then we're going to have a one-on-one coaching call with me. It's about 60 minutes, and we're going to start diving into that. The group coaching calls, they're on Zoom, like I said, once a month for 60 minutes. The 3 live retreats, the next retreat happens on October 9th to 11th, and it happens right here in the Detroit area. And obviously, we're going to get the accountability Facebook group where you can talk mastermind with people. And my expectations of you when you decide to join the mastermind is this. You join the calls. You get on the one-on-one group coaching calls. You get on the group calls. You come to the retreats, and you are on time. You have no idea how much integrity means to me when it comes to being on time. And that's just one little thing that transforms businesses, because being on time, it evolves into so many different areas of your life. So that's why that's one of the things that my first coach had me do, to just work on that being on time. And I kid you not, when I started putting that in my life, my clients were shocked. My clients were surprised that I'm calling them on time, that we're on time, because most of the people in this world don't do it. So they referred me to other clients, and just that one thing has given me so much, more business. You have to be coachable. What I mean by that is not have an answer for every single thing I tell you. I've experienced a lot of people who have answer for everything, right? That's not being coachable. What I mean by that is you take it on, try it on like you're trying on clothes. If I tell you something, like I shared this stuff with you today on the webinar, try it on, see if it fits. See if this is something that would be beneficial for you, and go take action. Listen, without action, nothing happens, nothing moves, right? You have to take action. So when I'm sharing, doing the assignments, you gotta take action. That's what growth happens. So that's important. You gotta be authentic too. You gotta be true. You gotta be honest, vulnerable, and respectful of others. That's very important. That's one my biggest expectation. That's why we're doing these discovery calls. You gotta be a giver, both money and wisdom. Share with the group. When we're at the retreats, when the group calls, you open your mouth, you talk, you share with the other people, and not be afraid to share what you know. Like I said, I do 10% of the profits to charity, and I encourage everybody in the mastermind to do the same. Here's another big one: no gossip. What's being said at the retreat, what's being said in the room, stays in the room. We don't gossip. And listen, I kid you not, how much more freedom people have, how much more authentic they get, and we become like a family. Think about it. Imagine being in a room with about 12 other powerful immigrants who are there for the same reason as you are, to grow, to support, to help each other out, and be very authentic, be true, be honest, be vulnerable and respectful, and be a giver. Can you imagine what can happen in a room like that? My vision, at one point in the future, I have event where about 5,000 to 10,000 people in the room in a big arena, and they're all immigrants. Now, think about that. What can happen when we have 10,000 immigrants, powerful immigrants, entrepreneurs, and business owners in one big room? That's pretty cool, right? And you got to be in action, like I said. You got to be in action, because without that, nothing really happens. So the tuition for the mastermind is, I'll share you in a minute, but I want to show something to you guys. For those of you who haven't in the mastermind, who've been looking at it, or ever heard anything about a mastermind, they're not cheap. On the cheap side, they go for about $25,000 a year. The Genius Network is $25,000 a year. This has been pulled from their website. Average cost of a mastermind goes anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000. I've seen ones worth $100,000, and they're not uncommon. Individual coach will cost you at least $10,000 per year. A really good coach, right? Because you can get one that will charge you, $200 a month, but that's not a very good coach, right? He's trying to help himself. And some of these coaches are but Tony Robbins, for instance, his one-on-one coaching, he charges, are you ready for this? $1 million a day. If you want to be coached with by Tony Robbins for one day, you got to flip $1 million. And many people do that because they see the value out of it. And many of my students do because they see the value of it. So the tuition for Immigrant Masters Unite is $15,000 for a year. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do that right now, because today we're working on founding charter membership to fill my mastermind for the founders, the charter members, and there's a total of 12 spots. And right now we have 4 that are still open. And in order for you to get in, I only ask that your tuition is $7,000 one time for the entire year. And you will be grandfathered for life with that tuition. So, in future, the next round is going to be going at $12,000, but you will be grandfathered for $7,000 for the entire year. And by the way, that $7,000, you don't have to pay that today. So stay and I'll explain to you what it actually means. Like I said, the next round pricing, after those initial 12 spots are filled, is going to be $12,000 a year. Now, in order to apply for this particular mastermind, head over to immigrantmastersunite.com. That's immigrantmastersunite.com/apply. And you will be able to apply in there. Now, before you head over there right now, hang on for just 1 second, because here's what is going to happen next. When you go to that page, I'm going to ask you to sign up for the coaching session that I shared with you earlier and fill out an application for that particular session and give a $97 one-time refundable fee. That tells me that you're serious. Because if I just want to put out something for free, we all know how much action people take for free. And I've tried that before and it just doesn't work. So all I ask is a 97-seat one-time refundable fee. And what I mean by that, if you don't listen, if I give you the session, I know what I can do with the session. I know how I can uncover the absolute truths or help you transform or reframe something. If you don't think this was the best money spent, I'll give you the money back. But I want you to show me that you're serious. So we're going to, schedule that. So on that page, when you go to immigrantmastersunite.com/apply, you're going to have to, the seat is $97 for the coaching session. Now, then you're also going to get the discovery session. We're going to do a 60-minute interview session at the coaching session that I told you about. We're going to decide whether or not we're a good fit, because I want to make sure that I let the right people into the mastermind and that you actually like it as well. So there's no pressure tactics or anything. It's just a conversation. If you say yes, you pay the tuition. If no, there's no hard feelings, and we go in our separate ways. And you get a coaching session out of it for yourself and uncover some of these truths. Actually get it reframed to a point where you can take a completely different way of living. And you can book your retreat, which is October 9th to 11th this year in Southeast Michigan. So for the next people, bonus right now on this particular webinar, for the next 5 people who fill out the application and book the $97 call, I'm going to throw in an extra coaching session to break another absolute truth that you might have. So you're going to come into this and we're going to have a conversation, coaching conversation, where I'm going to start digging into your life to find what the absolute truth is and then actually reframe that truth. So for the next 5 people only, because I can't do that for everybody, I'm going to be doing that as a bonus. So head over to the link and book your call right now. Take massive action, because guess what? Masters take massive action in life. And on that page, you're actually going to be able to find the manifesto that I shared at the beginning of this webinar, where I talked about the manifesto that I wrote. It's actually at the bottom of that page where you can click and download it. But head over to the page right now and download and actually sign up for this particular coaching session. Now, listen, I could charge, several $100s for this. And my regular fee for a coaching session, when it's not my student, I charge $250 for 30 minutes, which is $500 for an hour. Now, you have a little bit different choice. I'm giving you the special offer because why? Because of the fact that I'm looking to fill my Immigrant Masters Unite. So I want to talk to more people. However, in the normal basis, I don't do that. And the thing is, we now have 2 choices. You can choice 1. You can keep going, learn from what you got out of this webinar, and go back to your own life. And guess what? Tomorrow, you're going to go into the same exact environment that you've had today, and you're going to have to deal with that environment. If you think about it, there's been many times in our lives where we've gone back to the environment, and beginning, we did something good, and we tried to do it better, and then sooner or later, we get back into the same pattern, same habit, and we just go back and start living the same regular life. Or your other choice is to pick the new path. the new path in life. And that's what I'm talking about, is scheduling this particular coaching session with me. Because listen, magic happens outside of your comfort zone. I kid you not. The hardest thing that I have experienced with students is when they are comfortable in life. Because when you're comfortable in life, you don't really want to do much, right? The magic actually happens out of your comfort zone. This could be a little bit uncomfortable for you. So just take an action and try it on. You'll see it's amazing things happen out of it. Head over to the link, book your session right now, immigrantmastersunite.com/apply, and I will see you on the other side. Now, listen, let me get a little drink here. Drink of water. And I want to get a little bit real. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in this country when it comes to immigrants right now. There's a lot of stuff that's political, a lot of naysayers that they look at immigrants and all that kind of stuff, right? And I don't want to get into this political conversation here on this, immigration and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you this, the people that I've interviewed, the immigrants that I spoke about, they do not focus on this stuff. They look at, what can I do to grow myself, grow my business, grow my community, help my family, help my community. They focus on what's possible. They focus on what they're looking to do, not all the negativity that's happening out there. And they're succeeding. There's a ton of people in this country, ton of immigrants who are making a killing. Just look at Fortune 500 list. 43% of them are on there. In order for you to be Fortune 500, you got to be making a lot of money. So the Immigrant Masters Unite is about that, about coming together and focusing on the good thing, on the positive, and actually going after that, growing collectively, helping each other out. Because when you are a part of that kind of a community, amazing things will happen. I kid you not. And, one of the things that I live by, a quote that was said by Tony Robbins, and I think it's a universal law. And that is, where focus goes, energy flows. Write that down. Where focus goes, energy flows. Naysayers, politicians, they want us to focus on all the negativity that's happening out there. The powerful immigrants, the ones that have those 3 traits, focus on what's possible, on the good things. And that's what this mastermind is about. So I encourage you to head over and actually apply for the immigrantmastersunite.com /apply for your next particular session. Now, if the price is too much, listen, there's only 2 things that you can have if you really get down to it. You can either have an excuse or you can have money. Which one do you want? Because if you think about it, the people who are not very successful, they sure have a lot of excuses. So you can take charge of your life or you can make excuses. I hope you are looking at this as, I'm taking charge for my life, because I rather have the money. So I will do whatever I need to do to make things happen. I book things that I don't normally think that I can do. I join the masterminds. I put up the money. I do stuff outside of my comfort zone, because when I do that kind of stuff, I get the money. I don't make excuses. And, another reason why I don't price it out, $7,000 is actually, for the mastermind, is very, very cheap. If you think about it, that's about less than $20 a day for a mastermind that can help you change your life and your business. So the reason why I price it that way, because listen, without that price, I wouldn't be able to actually put the resources and time if I charge any less. And then it would be fair to you, it wouldn't be fair to me, and it just wouldn't work. So, I priced it out as low as I can get for the charter membership to help each other out. There's a lot of fixed cost that goes into it, and booking and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I charge it that way. And listen, I believe it's tax deductible. Now, I'm not a professional accountant, and so don't quote me on it, but I think it's tax deductible, this particular, because it's part of your education, that's for your business expense, right? So head over to immigrantmastersunite.com and apply for your seat at the refundable $97. And one of the last things I want to leave you with is this. there's such a thing called the tale of two men. And think about it this way. 12 months from now, I asked you guys earlier on this webinar, imagine yourself 12 months from now, where you're going to be. So in this moment, you are on a crossroad for which path you're going to take, path 1 or path 2. And I remember a story where two friends were in college, and each one of them took a different path. One decided to go and be an entrepreneur. The other one decided to go and get a job and get a regular, be an employee. They came back at the reunion later on, and that entrepreneur ended up being, multimillionaire, whereas the other person who ended up picking the 9 to 5 was still working for another person, and he was working on a fixed income under $100,000 a year. So which path will you take? Will you take the path that's the least resistance, or the path that you can actually use and have a breakthrough for yourself? I hope you choose that path. So take the path, apply for the Immigrant Masters Unite. And last but not least, listen, I'm just a Polish kid from a small town. And, I came here, didn't speak any English. If I can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. And I've had these many experiences with people where I've had, people who thought that they were dumb. And by the way, that's one of those limiting beliefs, those, I'm not smart enough, or whatever the case may be, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, right? And we can totally work that out. There's so many of those limiting beliefs. So I'm telling you, if a Polish kid from a small town in southern Poland can do it, anybody can do it. So this is it for this particular webinar. Head over to immigrantmastersunite.com/apply and take massive action and join the session for yourself. Now, I have, if there's any questions on the webinar from anybody here, you can put in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Let's see here. Polish Tony Robbins, Nate. Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yes. Elżbieta, hi. That sounds like a Polish name. Totally. I've noticed that's on there. Now, some of the questions that I keep getting from people is, are there any other costs that are involved with this? No, this is the only cost that I share with you, except for the fact that if you come into the retreat, obviously you got to book your own plane and, have somewhere to sleep, but you don't have to pay any other money for the retreat when it comes to, coming to the actual event, right? Are there any guarantees? Well, listen, I'll tell you this, there's no guarantees in life. I don't know if any of you guys seen a movie, Tommy Boy, but there was a scene in there where the guy wanted him to give him a guarantee, and he goes, well, if you want me to take a dump in the box and give it to you and put a guarantee on it, I will, but it doesn't mean anything. But that's the thing about life, right? Life, true life, real life doesn't give guarantees. So, however, I will tell you this, like I told you, $97 refundable fee. So if you don't like it, you can ask for a refund. I'm more than happy to answer that for you. And that's what it is. Can you do it later? Well, listen, yes, you can do it later. But I will tell you this, when people don't take action in that moment, when the time comes, when they have to make the decision, most of the time it doesn't happen. And the thing is, guys, money replenishes. What I mean by that is, if you have a paycheck, right, or if you have your business, you, let's say, get a paycheck of $500 this week, and in 2 weeks you get another $500. That keeps replenishing, right? It keeps coming back. But time doesn't. Once that time passes, you can't get it back. It can't replenish. So can you do it later? Sure, but I strongly suggest you don't wait and actually take action right now. And the last thing I want to say, what's the question that's popping up right now and in your head, or that objection, or that thing that you're like thinking, you know what? Yeah, but whatever. I bet you that has popped up in your head before many, 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 many times. And consider that is one of those things that's stopping you actually from being successful in life. You guys follow me? So whatever is popping up right now, whatever objection, that is actually one of the things that are stopping you from being successful in life. So you can take an action right now or keep moving in the same way. And I'm taking pretty much most of the risk here, because I can go and spend an hour, and I could have an opportunity cost for me is that I can spend an hour with somebody else, or they can pay me the $500, right? I'm spending with you because I'm, looking to see if it would be a great fit for the mastermind. So that's one of those things. And, there are so many things that block us from success. So whatever's popping up in your head right now, that might be it. So head over to immigrantmastersunite.com/apply and join. Try it on. I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. You're going to love it, because my students, I'll tell you this, one of my students, we were at the retreat, and she came in with a business question. And one of the first things we started doing is I started poking. They call me that, I'd like to poke. In fact, a lot of them say that I make people cry. It's actually a good thing, because they get real with themselves, right? They finally see something and they have a breakthrough. And she did that. And she discovered a lot of different things that were happening in her life, like there was guilt and all kinds of stuff. And I had her do certain things, do this exercise with her, and I had her do certain things after the retreat. 3 days after the retreat, 3 days, she sends me a text message and saying, Peter, thank you so much for what you did for me at the retreat, because I've been going to a dermatologist for the past 3 months, trying to get rid of the rashes that were showing up in my body, on my arms, under my armpits, and on my torso and everything. They couldn't figure it out, couldn't get it off. And guess what? All those rashes disappeared today. I couldn't believe it that she said that. But it's because all that stuff just fell off of her. The resentment, the guilt and stuff started falling off, and she was able to finally be free and do business. And now she's rocking it out, man. She's a real estate investor, and she's going and she's finding houses. She just closed the deal for $35,000 almost. She's going another 2 now. She's got in her books. So those are the kinds of things that are stopping us. I want to help you guys. I want to help you achieve that. And this is an access to that. So head over to immigrantmastersunite.com/apply and sign up through there for your own seat. And I hope to see you on a call and see you at the mastermind. Without further ado, Polish Tony Robbins, Polish Peter, thanks Nate, is out. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I'm looking in the chat right now to see if there's anybody else that has any kind of question. Let's see here. All right. So that's about it, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Listen, I truly appreciate you guys being on here, because it's a Thursday evening, and you guys been on here generously for an hour and a half with me. And I know your time is important. You took it away from your family, your lives, to be on here with me. So I truly appreciate it, and hope I give you enough value to get something out of this for yourself. Write this stuff down, take action on it, book it. And I hope to see you in the future. Come across and have this kind of conversation. Okay? Talk to you guys. Thank you.